Alright guys, I just want to make this video. This is very late. I think it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't sleep because of what happened today. I'm gonna be walking out and around. I have a nice pool in this complex, and I just came out of my clubhouse. I walked through the clubhouse. The TV was on, at 3 o'clock in the morning, so I turned it off. I guess someone didn't turn it off when they used it. But I'm making this video because I was thinking about a lot of things that I said, and what transpired today, and something toxic transpired in the National Guard base. I was in Air Force National Guard base, and I was kind of thinking long and hard on what and why, and and I think I come to a conclusion, and I just kind of want to make a video about it. I want to clarify certain things because I made a video before in regards to reserve, guard, and active duty, and I think like my last video I came to a conclusion that maybe the reserve is the best branch, the most relaxed branch, because a lot of people are part-time, and like if you can't really be toxic with people who's below you, and there's an underlying understanding that you can't be toxic to people like that under you, because they might have really good civilian job, but they don't need to be there, right? But in the guard, like there's a lot of people who's there full time, like they're called contractor or AGR, and then there's people who are traditional like myself who show up once a month, and you can't be like distinguished between the two, where the reserve is just literally everyone is a part-timer, and like, but in the guard there's not. Now I kind of want to make a follow-up to that, and I just didn't say like what really transpires today. And I said that guard was toxic and all these things, they're tribal and all that, but like now, before I go any further, I want to clarify that I only been in one base in the guard, which is West Virginia, the 167th Airlift Wing, and I only been in one base when I was in the reserve, which is McGuire Air Force Base in the reserve. Now active duty, I've been all over. I was in like McGuire Air Force Base. I was in Osan. I was in Kunsan. I was in Luke. So I know the culture in the active duty a lot better, because I move around a lot. But like in the reserve and guard, like it's more limited. But before this video gets too long, let's talk about what happened today. I had this master sergeant that I know since when I was active duty. I was an A1C back then. A1C mean Airman First Class. I was an E3 back then, and he was an E5, which is staff sergeant back then. But he was in the guard. I was in the active duty, and he was TDY from his guard base over to work with us for 6 months, so to build up his package and to build his experience in the Air Force, so that he could promote better. And this guy, not a lot of people in the shop like him. They don't. Like, to be honest, people who are above him love him, but people who are under him don't like him, because he knows how to do things to make himself look good in front of the correct people, right? But he's not as skilled as a mechanic, because that's what I work, as other people who was there longer, and he promoted really fast because he's very much like that, and he likes to kiss butt to the right person, right? Because he like that's what he does. Like if you have something to offer him, as in you outrank him, you're in his direct chain and you're an officer, then he'll probably like go out his way to help you. Like, hey, I need some help with my flooring, I need help moving, he'll be there, right? But if you're you're below him, then he won't show up, but he won't even look at you, he won't even talk to you. So I was in active duty with this guy in 2017, and 2023 I came over to the guard, and I was a staff sergeant then. I was ready to promote to tech, but there was no room to promote to tech. So I was a staff sergeant, he was a master sergeant, and you know, I came over, like the first day I came over, I'm like, hey, you know, like I know you, you know, we work together. Why don't we go get lunch and we talk to, like, we can catch up or whatever. Not interested, right? Not interested in at all. Like, I didn't even exist. Like, and that's kind of how our relationship is the entire time I was in the guard, was that like he he doesn't really want to talk to me. He doesn't want even to make eye contact. He ignore, like, I don't exist until he needs to bark order at me. Then I exist, right? Bark order and be toxic by like yelling at me. There's something that he doesn't like. He see me not do. He'll yell at me. Right now, there's 2 other master sergeant in that shop. I talk to them all the time. They talk to me like a human being, and we weren't even in active duty together, right? They weren't, like, I built a relationship with them, and so like if someone like that were to yell at me like, hey, you know, you're not doing something correctly, I would respect that. You know, I wouldn't be making this video right now. But the problem is people like him that, you know, like, ignore his airmen, unless that airman is a woman that's blonde and young, you know. It's kind of like, it's kind of revolting because and he's being groomed to take over the whole shop, by the way. So I'm probably not going to be here if he make it. I'll probably leave because my contract ends next year. And you know, like being a leader is about a burden. It's a burden, not a responsibility. Is a burden of responsibility, not a privilege, right? It's not your job to come and be superior than everyone else, because you're not. You're not, guy. You're not more superior than everyone else. It's like if you have a higher education than everyone else and then you act superior, people don't like that. Just like this, right? And the problem in the military is you have these nerds in high school who didn't get a lot of attention or whatever, or they weren't popular and whatever, and you give them a little power and they go crazy, right? You know, and that's kind of what we have in this scenario. Now, before this video gets too long, you know, what really transpires today was that I was reading, studying, you know, doing math work because I'm trying to commission, right? And you know, like, and he came over to me. And before we get to that story, I want to finish my last point when I'm talking about this guy, where he ignored me and whatever, and he would be, and one of the people, a lot of people at the shop told me, like, look, he you don't have anything to offer him. That's why he won't go to lunch with you and stuff like that. If you were an officer, then he'll go to lunch with you, and he'll even pay for lunch. You know, if you were his senior, he would pay for your lunch and he will go with you gladly, right? Or if you're a woman, then he'll go with you, because that's a SAPA case waiting to happen for sure, or a red dot for sure. But anyways, what happened was I was sitting like on my computer. I was waiting for the computer to load so I can check my email. The computer was so slow, so I was just doing some math work, right? Some math like practice questions, so I could, like, you know, take the officer qualification exam and make it in the Navy, right? Looking different branches to commission me. I can't just wait on the Air Force, right? Open your horizon, open up your possibility. Anyways, he came over to me and you know, like, you know, he said something like in a very demeaning tone, very demeaning, very condescending tone, and he was like, "Hey, how about you turn that computer off or finish checking that email and close that book, because we ain't, and go help the guys in the back and, you know, do some work, because we ain't pay you to be here to do homework." You know, I can't really like say it, and then there's other people in the room, so it's even more degrading, right? And there was other master sergeant in the room before him, right? So like, you know, like he feel like he needs to put it upon himself, you know. And it was in the morning, you know, like I was checking my email and whatever. So I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. Now, before I go to that point, could he have worded better? because sometimes it's not about what you say, it's how you say it. And I guess his mother never taught him, manners. But anyways, he 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 like, I forgot my train of thought, right? So I was kind of like, okay, maybe there's some work in the back, maybe I should go do it. So I closed my book, I closed the computer, I went up there, I went to the back to see to the bay, and I see that everyone was sitting on their phone, on their asses, on their phone, literally everyone, or they're BSing with each other, right? And I'm just like, huh, that's interesting. And this guy who just yelled at me, he is notorious for being in his AC conditioned office, sitting on his phone, doing nothing. But do you think he's gonna like it if I go up to him? Hey, are we paying you to be on your phone? Huh? But see, the thing is, like, he doesn't pay me at all, right? It's the Air Force that pay me, right? So, but this guy has a superiority complex that I can't explain. But anyways, dude, like, so he came up and do that, and like, maybe you could word it differently, right? Like, hey sir, how, like, I saw that like, you're not doing anything. Could you go in the back and like, see if the guys need help? And I would just get up, gladly say yes sir, and I'll go and do what he's, because I like, look, the entire time I've been in this shop, I did everything that he asked me to do, right? And he's the one who barked out the most order. I did everything that he asked me to do, right? Hey, I need you to go do this, do that, do this vehicle, and I do them, right? And I never, now I don't think this type of hostility is warranted. Now, to my last point, I think perhaps he is intimidated, because I'm very well educated. I have a bachelor's degree in physics, right? And I have been in this type of culture where if you're educated, you're well read, but you're a little more nerdy, you're more quiet, you're more nerd, you're more introverted, then like, for these type of blue collar working class, they don't respect education, right? So maybe they're intimidated by education. Maybe they see that, and they could go yell at people on their phone, but they don't do that. They yell at someone who's cracking open a book, right? Who's studying and stuff like that. So yeah, so I don't know. And I have been in academia as well, right? Academia, where they don't really respect military. They, like, you tell them you're in the military, like, oh, you kill babies, like, oh, like the favorite word, right? The favorite phrase is like the military industrial complex. You're part of the problem. So yeah, I've been in both. So I like, I don't really agree with everything one side have, and yeah, I think some people, they get in that little bubble of safeness, and they're not willing to move. And I like to move around and see different culture, and I'm very open-minded. And being open-minded, you have to see the good and the bad, and the bad really stands out at you, right? And stab you in the back, and twist that knife. And that's kind of what happens. And, like, let me know if you guys ever have this experience, and if you agree, disagree with me. Now, I was gonna make this a longer video, but it's already 14 minutes, and about, like, how there's a educated class, and there's a non-educated blue collar class, and like, and that's probably where the most of the toxicity come from my experience, because I was always been very studious, every activity and whatnot. And when I was in reservists, the people who were in charge of me, they were all educated, right? They had a bachelor degree, like my flight commander had an MBA from NYU, which is the Ivy League of MBA. So it's kind of like going to Harvard Law School. That's a top 10 MBA school in the country. So yeah, let me know. I'll be ending at 15 minutes, and yeah, I don't know what else to say, guys. Like, thumbs up, and comment and see if you agree or disagree.